Storytime Clinic. I am super excited about this episode because it's April Fool's Day. Yeah! Okay, if you guys do not know, April Fool's Day is just about the best day of the year. And I could not think about any better person to have on this podcast today other than the man, the chief goof officer, Pauly the Clown. Welcome. Yes. Wonderful, wonderful. I love that introduction, Pauly. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll do my little silly hat trick and then I'll put my headphones on regular. Here we go. So we always just try to it's like a show and a tell. Here we goes. Boom.
Look at that balance. Nice. Well done. All right. Well, we are going to have a lot of laughs today. I can tell. Pauly, I am just curious. I've been dying to ask you this question since we got connected. What does April Fools look like in the world of clowns? People who make people laugh for a living.
It is. It's a great day. It is a day where, there's the trickster element. There's lots of different kinds of clowns, and when I get the April Fools, like, hey, I'm stuck on the side of the highway. Like, that's not fooling, that's just like messing with people. Okay.
It's a bad day to actually be stuck on the side of the highway then.
Oh, yeah. So like, it's my little punk brother. He'd always get my mom on April Fool's Day, So it's just more of but it's a time when everybody gets to try and play the fool. And I think that's what people, want to see. I think, people spend a lot of time trying to keep it together and this and that. And I know it's funny to see April Fool's Day. I think it used to be a bigger deal, but now that everybody has like a camera in their pocket, we could show. Yeah. So it's like April Fool's Day has kind of taken over like the memes and TikTok and Snapchat. It's just interesting. Yeah. Now people will catch anything. Someone, getting caught, doing whatever, scaring people. It's just, it is. I think April Fool's Day has definitely become with a bigger audience, people play April Fool's Day often, right?
Yeah, it can get very elaborate, I'm sure. Yes. So the reason why I have Paul Miller on the show today is because I work in a children's hospital. I'm a pediatrician, as most of you know. And sometimes walking around in the main concourse of the hospital, you can actually bump into clowns on a regular basis. So this is not just, they did not get lost on the way to a children's birthday party. This is part of a regular gig for many clowns. And this is something that not a lot of people know about. So I'm just excited to kind of hear a little bit more about clowning and healthcare and how these two things can go together.
Well, it's a great opportunity. It is a thing that kind of started in the United States, like in the 80s in New York City with the Big Apple Clown Care Unit. And they were bringing clowns to, pediatric hospitals. But it really is a worldwide phenomenon. Medical clowning, therapeutic clowns. There's many different names that it goes by, but it is huge. In Brazil, it's huge. And it started with a guy from, Brazil that came and studied with folks in New York City. And then people from New York City, they went on to start projects in France that are 30 years old. And there's projects in Australia and in Israel. And I've been so fortunate because I've got to bring, our kind of brand or our style of work and work in hospitals in Portugal, in Finland, in Israel, in Australia, in Canada, and all these other places. Clowns are appreciated or revered. Here, it's funny. I think medical clowning started before Poltergeist and before Stephen King's It and before like the scary clown thing happened in our country.
Scary, yes.
Yes. We predate scary clowns. Okay, and
it was a time of innocence and fun.
And I love it because people are afraid of clowns. I'm like, no, people are afraid of doctors. Okay, people are afraid of needles and doctors. Okay, they're not afraid of clowns. But we call
truth, especially when you're dealing with little kids. Yeah.
We call ours our style is circus wellness specialists. Okay, we're not
Ah,
there. It's
I
not
like the
therapeutic.
title. I like the name.
It was
Circus
funny
Wellness.
because you don't have security at hospital. You have protective services. Okay, so they would call us clowns. They're like, whoa, we're not clowns. We're circus wellness
Yeah,
specialists.
gotta
Okay,
fancy it up.
yeah, you gotta, and I don't know. It really, in other countries, like when I'm working in other countries, makeup is makes sense, and that's what they want. We don't wear makeup, our circus wellness project, because we just you don't need to make, we dress a little bit off, you're wearing a hat, and we'll do a trick like when we come into the door. Oh, 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 it's swelling up already.
That happened quickly.
Oh.
You need to get that checked out.
It's and then we'll ask a kid to come over, and we'll do an emergency rhinoplasty, which is plastic surgery. They will remove the clown nose. Okay,
That's great.
and it is fun to be
Yes.
in this space where there's so many different audiences. Like the project we're trying to build is for the staff. The people that are in the waiting room, the parents that are in the waiting room for hours. And kids laugh at slapstick, but when you have an emergency rhinoplasty, then even like the first year, everyone's like, what is it? It's funny because if you bring just enough medical jargon into it, you get everybody's
Yes.
attention,
Yes. So it's not just for the kids, it's for, everyone gets something out of it. I like that.
Yeah. Even when security or protective services. So I can balance a wheelchair on my chin. Okay. And in any other place, people would be like,
what?
put it down like a wheelchair, I'll do a regular chair
Wow.
for you.
Uh-huh.
I'd take a wheelchair in the concourse and I would balance it on my chin. Okay.
Wow.
Like that, And it was so much fun because security would like, hey, Pauly, do the wheelchair, and it's funny because usually they would be like, what are you doing? And that is what was so much fun being in that space and having so many different audiences. And if you look
Yes.
at the circus, like in the circus ring, you have the rich people that sit in the first 3 rows. Then you got the middle class people that sit in the 6 rows. And the reason the clowns wear the nose and in makeup and in big shoes is so the poor people in the last 5 rows can still have the same experience. So it's all about equity and inclusion and all of that stuff. The circus is kind of the OG multimedia, before the radio, before the television, before all of these things, before the movie screen. It was the circus.
Well, tell us a little bit about how you got started in this. Before there was a circus wellness and before all that, how did you and when did you decide you wanted to be a clown?
I think my parents wished I was fooling them when
And I was gonna ask that. How did your parents take that information?
The dean didn't take it well either. I was at CCM, a fancy theater conservatory in Cincinnati,
Okay.
and it was my senior year, and I dropped out to join the Ringling Brothers Circus. And
Ooh, your senior year?
yeah, and it was. So this isn't a romance podcast, but I did ask my girl to marry me. We'll be married 25 years this year, okay? So that's my unsolicited romantic advice for you podcasters out there, all right? I was not real happy studying, the theater. It was an excellent education. At the time, I was just angry. I tell people sometimes I'd be dead in jail or in the circus, because like since the dawn of time, only the best thugs could run away and join the circus, like in the 1800s, if you're an orphan, the nuns would catch you. You had to get away from the nuns if you wanted to be in the circus, and then you had to like apprentice and you had to do all of these things. So I was a clown with the Ringling Brothers in 96 and 97. So I tell everybody it was the late 1900s, just to kind of put some silliness into it.
Yes.
But there was a profound moment when the circus was going to be in Cincinnati in 1997, and there were the floods. So the Ohio River was flooding, the show got canceled, and we ended up taking the show to 5 area Red Cross shelters. And it was a guy from Nigeria who could unicycle and balance big giant things on his chin, some Frisbee dogs, and 2 clowns. They were the only people that could get their equipment off the train. So
Wow.
the train ended up going on to Baltimore. We stayed in Cincinnati for 10 days. and we were at 5 area Red Cross shelters. And
Oh, wow.
the people were really like, you're either going to be laughing or you're going to be crying. You know, like they had
Yeah.
lost everything. There were no structured activities for the kids. So we would take all the kids into the gym, and we put on, I mean, the 5 of us put on, you know, an hour show, which was crazy without any props. But then the parents got to decompress or go smoke their cigarettes or cry or fill out their insurance forms. So that was really a big shift for me on how I saw the use of the clown.
Yeah.
And it made sense because, like, going back, like the American, you know, Native American culture, like they have the Heyoka, which is the sacred clown, which is very similar. Like it's acting out, it's doing things that are different. They are activated in times of crisis. And I mean, I've even met the group that's called the Dream Doctors, and they're based in Israel. There are friends of mine that I've got to work with in workshops in Vienna and in Tel Aviv and in Jerusalem. And there are medical clowns right now that are in Moldova, that are in Poland, that are working to help the refugees from Ukraine come over and distract and provide some joy. So it is, and so that is kind of the history of, you know, how I started. And then I started a circus project in Chicago called Circus Esteem, building self-esteem through the circus arts. And this was right after September 11th. And it was really a neat opportunity for me to work with different groups of people. We had African refugees, African American kids, and mostly Jewish kids that were in our circus project. And it was neat because we took it to University of Illinois Chicago, Rush Memorial, and Loyola. And this one kid, Jack Gomberg, it was for his mitzvah project. We kind of kid was like, take your son to work day. He wasn't my son, but he did some clown rounds with us. And now he's like, he was a Fulbright scholar. I got some connections with him. He spent a year or so in Israel. He's going to be a brain surgeon. And he actually published a paper in English on how medical clowns can save hospitals money. So that's like planting seeds and having it kind of come around. So
yeah.
I mean, it'd be cool. Hopefully I can provide a link. I don't have the money to pay to read the whole thing because, you know, I don't have those resources, but there is, you doctors do. Okay. So there's a link. You can download it and see how other countries use clowns to save money. So
yeah, that's really interesting. And I love the examples that you provided, you know, like in times of crisis, so the flood and refugee situations, and even, you know, what's happening in the Ukraine. You know, you have this opportunity where you're making people laugh. It's not just entertainment, but it's actually almost therapeutic. It's providing, you know, some relief from the immediate situation that's happening. And that's kind of such a powerful way to use what on the surface just seems like silliness and fun, but you're actually using it and really changing the perspective and just lifting up the moment, even at least just for a little bit. I think that's so powerful.
It is. And, you know, my friends in Israel, I mean, it's amazing. Like when they had the big earthquake in Haiti, a clown friend of mine, his name's Douche, David Barashi. He, of course, was in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, but they took off in a big jet before there was even anywhere to land. They land, they secure one well. There's thousands of people waiting to get the water, and they activate the clown, and the clown is entertaining and distracting all these people while they wait patiently in line to get water. And again, it's just it is a neat, like, just what a way to use the power of the red nose.
I like that. So tell us about your company itself, Circus Mojo. When did that start? What kind of projects that you've done in the past? I know you mentioned that you worked at Cincinnati Children's Hospital for several years.
Yeah, and we worked, you know, so it was, again, different crisis. It's coming out of the, like, economic downturn of 2009. You know, GM's going belly up. We're bailing out AIG and the Lehman Brothers. It was just a different time. And I was involved with this group, the Society for Arts and Healthcare. And it's a really neat group. Of course, everything evolves. Now it's called NOAA, like National Organization for Arts and Health. But it's kind of an umbrella group that Johnson & Johnson funded and kind of connected with some of the different, you know, the dance therapies and the music therapies and all these different things. And I was in Buffalo and connected with some people from Texas Children's Hospital, and they do a really neat camp for kids in Tennessee on dialysis. And for the parents, it's a great chance for them to like go on a 7-day cruise without their kids, because every 3 days you got to be hooked up to a machine, So, and the kids love it because they get to go and be with like-minded kids that are either on a kidney transplant list or all these different things. So these were some really neat friends at Texas Children's Hospital that connected with DCI, like a dialysis group outside of Nashville. And they would bring in, I don't know, 12, 20 dialysis machines. And then all these pre-med students would be there as counselors. And we had just a great time kind of bringing the circus to this group and it was during their first day of camp. They'd all check in. First day we would have a circus. And it was a great groundbreak. It was a great like icebreaker, kind of get everybody connected. And we're really about teaching people circus skills is what we want to do. And at the hospital, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, that's why you go to the circus, is to see the can't. Like, you can't get in a cage with lions. You can't get shot out of a cannon, like.
Or can't you?
When we were there, we would teach kids like we would teach people like how to spin a plate. Okay. In spinning plates, it's very simple, but you just have to follow the directions, So we teach us spinning plates, and it would be so much fun because day 2 we would be there, and all the pre-med kids, like they would get so like competitive about it, like, look, it's about the kids first of all, okay? So we'd always take them away, like, what are you here for? We're not, you're paying a lot of money to go to school. These kids, just come on, let's get this straight, But it was great because like when the kids are hooked up with one arm on dialysis, they'd spend 2 hours working on spinning their plates.
That's impressive.
And that's what is really fun to have, like, be in this space, have very clear protocol of like what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it. We'd have these balls that kids could walk on, these big wheels that we let kids roll around in. So it was really like they would see the show and then they would get to try the stuff. And then, we would give them the spinning plate if they could spin it. If you can't spin it, you don't get to keep it. Oh, it's not fair. It's like, life's not fair. Okay. And I love the big guys.
You got to earn your plate.
You got to earn it, So I own a brewing company, the Beerkus Brewing Company, and we go to we go to like beer festivals, and we teach people to spin the plate. Same rule applies. And you get these big guys with beards, and I'm on a plate, man. Like, well, are you one of those participation trophy guys? You don't look like one of those people.
No.
Oh, and then like, oh, so again, it's just messing with people.
Yes.
So, but then we have like these peacock feathers, which are, so the plate can be difficult. But the feather is so easy. You just look at the top of the feather and you balance it. So it's like what we try to do is we try to frustrate people early on with the spinning plates. And then when they're at the bottom, I can't do it. 3 or 4 people get it. Then we get the feathers and everyone's like, I'm doing it. Because, yeah. You
gotta end with a win. End with a win.
and with the win. And what was so neat is down there, so we were doing work in Texas. Once a quarter, we'd be down there, and we would bring it to the waiting rooms, and we would also do it at the dialysis unit, and we would bring the circus to the cafeteria. And I love it because at the time, Texas Children's was number 5, and Cincinnati Children's was number 3. And if number 5's doing it, number 3 better be doing it, right?
Oh, yes.
So then we had like
competition.
Yeah. So we had an interview there, and my partner's from Ghana, and he and I crushed it, and it was just so much fun to like go there, present for the Cooperative Society, have them be so excited about it, and then and really it was just like we're just like a different flavor. We're not wearing makeup, we're not doing this. The budget plates don't cost too much money, feathers don't cost too much. We want to give them to the kids, and it's so much fun because it was like the 3-day orientation at the time, and I go up to the Dr. Connolly, who's the head of infection control, and hello, Dr. Connolly, I'm Paul Miller, it's my partner Emmanuel. We're bringing the circus to the hospital. It's like, you are not bringing the circus, and she was really like, but so like slowly we kind of turned that ship around, and It was neat because what were we doing wrong? There was things, we had to like first, and I brought 2 sticks for an example. So when I was down at the wooden sticks make sense because they're cheap and they're easy and you can get them at the hardware store and you can sharpen them. But these don't pass the ICP, infection control protocol, okay? Because germs can get on these, They did not want us to be there at first because they were just putting up these barriers until we start laughing, until they start laughing. Like they couldn't stop laughing, and a dad would try to spin the plate. And I'd be like, look, Dad, you want to spin a plate? Go to University of Cincinnati. This is Cincinnati Children's Hospital, right? Only children can spin plates here, And then the kids are like, yeah, Dad. And then it's fun, right? It's just a fun way to, again, invert the status quo. So that was a great run. We were a line item on the budget at the orthopedics department for a long time.
Wow.
And we got this highest, the Hope Award, highest orthopedic patient experience award. So that was really fun.
Nice. Very nice.
And it was cool because people would be waiting in the waiting room for like 3 hours, and that's when we'd get them all to spin plates because you could work on it for 45 minutes. And then we play Name That Tune. Then we do some juggling. Then we get the feathers out. And it was just such a good way to have people be distracted by doing some things, not on an iPad, not watching a TV, but, actively.
Being active and involved,
And it was just so much fun because we would take it to the psych unit when it was inpatient, and then we'd also go to off-site at North College Hill. There could be a guy, 6'5", 350 pounds, and just, and he's like, F the circus, I'm not going. Man, dude, that's fine. I'm not a dentist. I'm not here to pull your teeth. And as soon as you disengage that system, then they come in. Then the chairs there weigh 60 pounds. They're full of sand, so the kids can't throw them at each other. Then I'd bounce a 60-pound chair on my chin, and then we would own that space. Like the people that didn't want to do it, they wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And just to bring the circus and have 30 kids that are in the gymnasium and, just playing with what's appropriate and what's not. And it was just, but really to then kind of back it up with data. So that's like the goal that we're working towards is to have it be sustainable and we'll see. But it's been, it's been a hoot. It's been a lot of fun.
It sounds like you've figured out a way to create so many opportunities for this to be used in so many different avenues. I mean, like your orthopedics, you're doing psych, you're doing, you're working with juvenile delinquents, wards of the state. Like there's so many different ways that you have figured out how to use this. And what do you think is the biggest value to the children from participating in things like this?
Well, it's like they have this thing. They went to the hospital, and we also did work at the CBD, the Cancer and Blood Disease, and I call it the CBDEIO clinic, and the doctors hate that, right? When you're making fun of and it's right next to. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, oh my gosh. So it's hard because again, this is where rocking the boat or being the clown is a great challenge.
Yeah.
Because we'd have a kid who would be putting down getting their chessboard changed. Okay. So this would be a 4 to 6 year old trying to get their chessboard changed and rolled up in a sheet or two or three nurses holding the kid down, kicking and screaming. And some of the group in that clinic would have us come in. All right.
Yeah.
And the kid would sit on one of the parents' lap. We would get all their fingers warmed up, and then we would have the kid like spinning the plate on his or her finger. All right. And then we would say, all right, get your next finger ready. Okay. And it's so funny, right? So then they're like this, and so we would start on this on the side of getting the chest. So they would start here, and they would be doing the prep, and then we would be over here, and the kid would be on this side doing the same thing. And in the time that happens, the chest it's done. Yeah. So that is on a very on a young, difficult level. But then we also had been working with the Children's Home of Northern Kentucky, who these kids are wards of the state, and with these kids, it's they're cutting themselves. I mean, they've got cuts all over because that's how they're dealing. And then they're spinning plates, and it's cool to give people something positive to get attention with versus, doing negative things. These kids are foster kids. They've been in and out of a lot of care. When they go to a new school, they show up, and they're in the cafeteria, and they're juggling oranges,
Yeah.
and it's cool because the kid is now the cool kid who's, and maybe he gets yelled at for juggling oranges, but you know what he's not doing? He's not biting a teacher. He's not setting the trash can on fire. There's all these other ways.
Yeah.
So that is the kind of the mojo.
They can be proud of, like it makes them stand out in a good way, like you mentioned.
That's like, so that's where, like, for us, mojo is really about like that empowerment. We want to give the poor sick kid something that the healthy kids don't have. It's a so anyway, that is kind of
that narrative. I like that. Yeah.
And it's been really neat because being and working at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, like Victor Garcia, he was one of the big heads of surgery there. He helped me get into work with the Hamilton County Juvenile Detention Center, and so these kids are in for stealing cars and felonious assault and all this stuff, and we're teaching circus to these kids. And we're also teaching circus at the same time to the kids for the gifted center. All right. So it took 12 hours for the gifted children to be proficient in juggling 3 objects and spinning a plate. How long did it take the kids in jail to learn those same skills?
How long?
What do you think?
2 hours.
Nope.
30 minutes.
20 minutes.
Wow.
20 minutes.
That's incredible.
And that's where back to April Fools, like that's the fool. And I'm not at the Super Saturday program anymore because I announced that in their final showcase, and I was like, it took us 6 2-hour classes to get this. Meanwhile, at Hillcrest, the Hamilton County Juvenile Detention Center, these kids master these skills in exactly 20 minutes. We all have different gifts, don't we? We all have different gifts.
And you were disinvited?
I got an email that was inappropriate. And I said, well, hey, I was happy. Okay, you're inappropriate. This is me being the jester, speaking truth to power, if you will. But we all have different gifts, okay? Let's just look at it. It's just really been a fun way to engage, to do things that are not what you expect.
Yes,
and to just be in cahoots, really, like play Good Cop, Bad Cop, or play Laurel and Hardy, or Tom and Jerry. Like, it's always comic duos, and we always work in teams of 2, but often it would be the clowns and the medical staff, and they would, and we had enough banter and enough things worked out really well with them that it was so much fun. We were on call. We called it Code Plaid, as our contract at Ortho doubled, and it was great. So we were basically there 5 days a week, and we'd either be there in the morning or the afternoon for like 2-hour sessions. But it was like by 8:30 in the morning, they would give us the Code Plaid email, and they would either be there in the morning or we'd be there at night. It was not Code Silver. It wasn't Code. All the codes you got to learn. Ours was Code Plaid. Which was just because we had silly plaid pants we wear. So we would start arguing, the 2 of us, on the way on whose turn it was to push the button. Okay, hey, it's my turn. You pushed the button on yesterday. Well, I don't care. I'm pushing the button. And there would be this stressed out family. Okay. And with a kid in a little stroller, and they see us arguing, and they're like, where are we? Like they're down in like the bottom of the garage, and these 2 clowns are arguing with each other. Yes. And then we'd get in the elevator, and then we're like, all right, let's let, this is Children's Hospital. Let's let the kid push the button. So that would be our, like, how we would diffuse our argument. And then these people are like, what? And then we would go in the elevator. Where are you going? This button. Hey, could you push this button? And it was the alarm. It was just the bell. And again, having that worked out with facilities, it was fine. And it was just hilarious because they had the cameras in the elevator, and I had worked really well with protective services and facilities. And you could be in the elevator as a doctor and super stressed or super happy or whatever. But adults laugh when they're embarrassed and when they're surprised, okay? This would both embarrass and surprise people because they'd be on their phones, and the little kid would push the alarm, and the kid would be gleeful. The whole elevator would be like, ah! And it just reminds us that we all put our pants on the same way.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. I love, and what you said about the idea of, doing things that are unexpected. And what's interesting about the whole experience is that a lot of times children and their families are coming to the hospital and they have an idea of what it's going to be like. It's going to be scary. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be a long, painful experience, and then you're injecting this completely unexpected aspect of things, and they go home, and sometimes you can go home from the hospital and say, that was great, this is what I learned today. I learned how to do this is
Yeah.
what I remember. You have like
Yeah.
positive, funny memories.
Yeah, it's really, and it's cool because in the CBDIO clinic, we would see these kids over a extended period of time. So
Yes.
they would learn to spin the plate. They would go, we'd send them home with a couple peacock feathers and they could teach their classmates. And then we'd teach them to juggle scarves, and then they'd learn to, so it was neat to have, kind of continuing education, if you will, for people that we see on a regular basis, and then kind of hit and run stuff if you're going to be in the ortho department for 3 or 4 hours, and I don't know. So and I've even seen kids who, like, I taught to juggle in jail, and I was walking through part of Cincinnati, and these like 3 guys like, "Hey, you man, I know you," and I'm getting ready to get my butt whooped, okay? And I'm thinking, oh no, and he's like, "Man, hey, you taught me to juggle when I was in the box. Get over here." So then I'm juggling cell phones. I'm like, oh, it's not what I expected. Okay, like they were fooling me, So it is a neat because
Wow. Well, it's been so incredible to hear about all your different clowning experiences.
It's such an honor. Thank you so much.
I have done so much laughing on this one episode, and I hope a lot of the listeners do as well. I do have a question.
Okay.
So, for those of us who are maybe wanting to branch out of our, our usual boxes, and we want to like pick up some circus skills or so, is there a way that you profile people and you say like, you would be good at juggling, you would be good at this or that? How do you know where you fit in?
Well, I would put you're probably an acrobat or a juggler. Okay. So here's a couple, back to, like, we do a lot of corporate team building. All right. So say you're an office of 20 people or a classroom full of 20 kids. All right. If you're kind of alpha, like if you fix your hair, if you make your bed every day, if you drive like a convertible, like if you really got it together, you're an acrobat. Okay. And the acrobat, has a low frustration tolerance, okay? Like, they're up there. They're the gifted kids, all right? Once they get something, they're not going to learn anything else, all right? Then if you're, like, really analytical, if your taxes are on time, if, like, all your forks and all your spoons are in the right space in your drawer, like, you're an accountant, you're a juggler, all right? Like, there's a system to how you do things. So juggling is a system, and it's a repeatable system, etc. And if you're obnoxious like me, or you could be really tall and skinny, or big, short, and round, or if you're just a little bit off, or if you're angry, you're likely a clown. And you go through life making fun of yourself and situations, not other people. Like, stand-up comedy is usually making fun of people. Clowns are the exact opposite. Clowns fail. And it's in the failing and the continuance, as with Charlie Chaplin. That's the clown aspect. So I think most doctors are definitely acrobats, maybe a little bit of juggling in there, okay? But you find the doctors every now, like Dr. Wally. I don't know if he's there anymore, but Wally was definitely a clown,
Yes,
So, so that's how I break it down.
I find that so interesting, that there's so many different skills that go into, the things that you guys do. And also there's something else that you mentioned, and I was wondering whether you guys have done any work or think about doing any work with kids who maybe have developmental issues, and doing something like this might help with some of those fine motor skills and gross motor skills. Have you done anything like that?
We do a lot of work with people on the autism spectrum, and there's BCBA, board certified behavioral analysis, and this is kind of like a new, like, non-medical way to connect with usually kids who have autism. And then there's another, there's the kind of, I don't want to say the practitioner, I'm getting the initials wrong, but there's a RFW, or there's a person that's spending 20 hours a week with the autistic kid trying to develop new habits and behaviors. And what do they want? They want the kids to listen, to share, to cooperate. And it's great because we've had a lot of folks with autism kind of come in and do this kind of test subject series with us in our building, including having them spend us for a week of summer camp with their kind of guide who's all padded up to play defense. But it's neat because how are you learning to share? You know, you're learning to share when, you know, I get the plate spinning, okay, and they want to try and get it spinning, and then I get the stick, and we teach them to pass the plate from one stick to the other. Okay? Like this is sharing, all right?
Yeah.
And this and it's fun to try and take the goal are these medical outcomes. And then from the gross and fine motor skills, or from the listening, or from the patients, or from the, and we never tell people no, you know, when they want to fly in the trapeze, we do that. When they want to push the balls around, the big giant balls, and they, and I'm speaking very general here, but they, mostly autistic teenage kids, have been told no. That's mostly what they've been told. And we're like, we are the improvisational kind of yes and model, right? And. You know, like, and we make a big giant mess. And it's like, look, I'm going to clean it up. It would be great if you help me, but if you just want to go, or if you want to go back to your iPad or your coloring books, whatever you want to do, that's fine. But I'm going to clean up right now. And if you please help me, that would be great. And it's so great because we're not telling them what to do. And sometimes they won't do it. But after like 3 or 4 times, they decide, oh, that poor dumb clown, I made a big mess. I'm going to go and help him clean up because it is a mess. You know, and it's great because they see me talking back to the BCBA and their mom or their dad. I'm like, no. I made the mess too. I'm going to clean up the mess. You got to help him. No, he does not have to. Who's in charge right now? I'm in charge. You're in my building. You're in my circus. You know, and when the kids see me talking back to the system, then they become your partner. And then they want to do the thing. So that's really some of the goals that we're like working towards, is like partnering with the right institutions, you know, like collaborating with our intellectual property. Cause like, that's a big thing. Like, how do we go to do this? Cause there's all, you know, Cirque du Soleil, they laid off 4,000 circus artists, you know, and all my friends used to be Ronald McDonald. So the local Ronald, all the Ronald McDonalds got laid off. So like, I'm trying to create like sustainable jobs for circus freaks, if you will, but having them work like in a medical setting 2 or 3 days a week, and then at the children's home of East Tennessee, or, you know, and then you do a couple corporate team buildings, you do a couple weeks of circus camp, and then it becomes like a model. So, you know, this is just a very important piece of the puzzle. So it's neat because it's really like bringing legitimacy and kind of linking some of these different things.
Yeah. I mean, no, I think you have shown in so many different ways, you know, how this can be helpful to people. You know, they say laughter is the best medicine, and you're providing that in so many different avenues. So
yeah, it's got, is it homeopathic laughter, or can we write a prescription for it, right? You know.
If we could write a prescription, I mean, honestly, I do think that this psychological aspect of healthcare and of wellness is actually, it's just as important, if not more important, than like the medications that we write for.
In other countries, that's why the medical clown is used, because it is solving so many problems at an incredibly low cost.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Pauly, for being on the show today. We appreciate it. We appreciate the laughs. We appreciate the knowledge, you know, and I wish you all the best.
Send in the clowns.
Thank you.
Send in the clowns. Thank you.